Bridgin The Gap, BTG, family, what's up? We back. Episode 7. Who the hot 7? KD. Trey 7 now, right? KD 7, not even Trey 5. We here, episode 7, season 2, Bridgin The Gap, live from Dubai. You know the introductions. I'm the youngin'. I'm the young OG, Ryan Yates. Over here, that's the man of many aliases. You know, sometimes he's Blade, other days he's Shaft, you know, other days he's Joe Clark, Coach Carter. But for me, you know, that's JK, aka Drew Park. You know, here almost on time. You know, how we doing, man?
Blade, Shaft, that's a big disparity.
That's range. You got range, man.
That's slander right there.
Look, people don't know the cheese and cracker king or the and the blade under the tongue king. They don't know. But we back, man. It's been a hell of a week, 2 weeks? I don't know. It felt like all one day.
Hell of a term. 3 months.
Man.
4 months. We started with August 31st was our first practice.
Yeah.
We've been rocking and rolling since, man.
Rocking.
Non-stop.
Rocking and rolling, right? As you guys know, we're here in Dubai with our Hoop Mountain Dubai brand, our basketball academy, our basketball culture that we're here to build in a very young and amazing country of UAE, in the city of Dubai, who just celebrated their 50th year as a country. So let's start with this for good reason and an applause. I've said to many people, you won't see me back. I am. The UAE will be home for a lot of reasons. I remember talking to family and I was like, this is not what we were told the Middle East was, and it feels like it's kind of like the gold rush. You know, when everybody in America was trying to get to Cali and get to the West Coast as soon as they heard about gold.
Right.
But some came too late, but some were there just in time. And I feel like we had like the perfect timing here in Dubai.
I've been okay with 10 years earlier, though.
10 years earlier, for sure. It would change everything.
Some people operating around here right now that are just lucky they got here.
Yeah. Ass backwards. There's people here crazy messing stuff up. But we are here and we love it. 50 years, King. Like, you think about how young that is. Like, my mom is older than the UAE.
Man, I'm thinking about approaching 50 now.
Right? And you talk about, like, the technology, the systems, the government systems, you know, the education of people that are growing, how they've been able to matriculate and blend cultures while preserving their own. It's masterful, man. Like, and not money don't just, like I saw Steve Harvey say that, you can't just have money. Like, money not, and we learned this being here, and we'll talk about this later, money's not enough to be successful.
Right.
Like, you got to have more than just money. They got plenty of it, but they have more than just money to make this, you know, sustainable. So I'm excited to see what the next 50 look like. You know? Well, you tell me that you've been around the world a few times. So when you first got here, what were some of the things that kind of set you back? Like, wow, how?
Man, fresh off the plane, man, just the cleanliness of everything. We're talking about being in the heart of the city and everything's clean. And I can say this. I drop something.
Get it off the ground.
And depending on what it is, I wouldn't feel that bad if I took a bite out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And there's sand blowing everywhere, like all that just different.
Yeah.
Like, I don't know how we got these big 1 million foot buildings built on sand.
Yeah. Well, look, I mean, just think about just everything in general, the palm and all that, man-made islands.
Yeah. Built on, and this is not the sand that you use to make glass.
Right.
Like, this sand is like soft and brittle. Like, it goes up and it comes down. Like, it's different. So, man, shout out to the UAE and their leaders. You guys are amazing. We look forward to being here for the next 50.
Long time.
You know, God willing. So, shout out to that. But like I said, like you said, it's been Hoop Mountain, man. we've been putting so much in. We're starting to get things out of it. But, just like everybody, you need a break at some point. A physical break especially. Sometimes mentally you can never completely step away just because you control everything. Not yet, but physically we're there.
Emotionally.
Oh, my goodness.
The reason I say emotionally because we put so much into it. We don't just go out there and roll the balls out and say, whoever gets it, they get it. We make sure everybody gets a chance to, be involved and progress. So that's taxing on you sometimes, man.
Lord knows. And then, we care so much about them every hour we're spending away. We're also trying to create more opportunities.
Right.
Do some more creative things that they haven't seen or haven't been able to experience. And that has to happen through collaboration. And, that's not the most easy thing, but we'll get into that. But shout out to our Hoop HMD family, Hoop Mountain Dubai. I decided to represent today. We actually just coming here right from the gym. So you know how that is, leave one project, go to the next. But let's jump right into it with our NBA check-in. Interesting space right now. We're at the space where we're about a quarter of the way through the season. Almost, more trade rumors are going to start creeping up. Football season is about to end in the next, 4 weeks between college and the NFL. So the drama is going to increase when all eyes are on the NBA. Right now, everybody can agree Steph is the MVP through the first quarter of the season. Well, there have been a few shockers out there as well. What? You don't want to get no love to nobody? Man?
No, I mean, if he's the bona fide MVP right now, who's second? Who's right?
KD.
KD.
And I'm still thinking that, what's interesting is I've been listening to the media talk about Brooklyn, talk about that situation. I mean, just the frenzy that's been around that situation, period. And if anybody else had their team at number one in the Eastern Conference through all of that drama, through your second star being out of shape, coming off an injury to where they want to keep you in a minutes restriction, but you got that team number one in the East, you hear a whole lot more about what's going on over there in Brooklyn for KD being an MVP. But as I say, you got to be a media darling. Personally, I'm still going with KD winning the MVP over the year because you got that team with all that going around it.
And I think they lost Joe Harris too.
Yeah, Joe Harris out for a while, right? I mean, DeAndre Jordan's not playing that much. Blake Griffin's not playing that much either. So, that's all on KD. Harden is looking, like he just...
D's with you guys, right?
DeAndre Jordan? Is he? Oh, man, he hasn't been playing with us either.
He used to start.
That's what it is. They traded him for a reason. We picked him up for no reason. And now, but the good thing we got Dwight because Dwight playing solid. But
I think DeAndre's still serviceable, man.
Yeah, somewhere else in China.
Nah, man.
Yeah, we'll see. Maybe in the playoffs he'll be useful.
Using the right way, man.
Yeah, whatever. But I will say, you were talking about MVP, so you don't think Steph is, warranted of that?
Oh, yeah. He's always going to be
for the first quarter.
He's always going to be in conversation for the MVP.
Yeah, for the first 25. Yeah. You think anybody's been left out of that conversation?
No, that's what I was asking you. I mean, for me, it's just him and KD.
And Chris Paul?
That is a dark horse.
I mean, they're 18-4. They won for a whole month. A whole month. Nobody said a word.
Right.
Who's at the head of that? And you think about the fact that they didn't offer Ayton the extension, right? And so typically you don't get the best effort from somebody out of there, sometimes, especially that young. He hasn't said a word, just kept going.
Well, I mean, but he's got some solid vets around him that maybe have told him just ball up and you know what, you take your bags elsewhere and get that bag.
But that's what it is, though, right? Having Chris Paul there to be like, nah, look, it's all right. I'm gonna make sure you do your job. I'm gonna make sure I do mine, and we're gonna go. Like that's different. That takes different because if anybody else is at the helm and at the front of that, are they still 18-4?
I doubt it very
seriously. After starting 3-4 or something like that?
Yeah. You know, they one reason why they may be a little quiet over there is because of what's going on in front office.
Word.
You know,
Word.
people don't want to bring any light to that.
Yeah. It's interesting though. But I'm watching. I do want to I want to show some love to the Cleveland Cavaliers. I swear, I thought they were going to be a laughing stock for a few years, man. For a few years at least. But they're playing well. You know, they're flirting around between that 5, 6, 7 seed for the playoffs, and they've been there consistently. And they've been beating some solid teams, right? And what I like is that they're playing big and they're making it happen. So shout out to JB Bickerstaff over there. We love to see you making it happen out of a situation
out of a bad situation.
Terrible. One of the worst in the league. One of the worst in the league. Possible trades. That's one thing that's going to be interesting because I just saw an account, and I don't know if this is true or not because Dame Lillard doesn't necessarily make these type of things happen publicly, but they're saying that Dame said he wants Ben Simmons in Portland. My initial reaction is Dame just leave. Dame just go. But just let's just flirt with the idea of a Portland trade. Do you go if let's say you're Daryl Morey and you're gonna listen, what do you ask for? What makes you move the needle?
That's my question. They don't have anything. If you to get what you really want or what you should get for Ben Simmons, that means Dame's leaving.
Got to.
Yeah, I mean, and even if you add Ben Simmons, it's not getting them over the hump.
Man,
nothing's changing.
Dame got to go. You know, Stephen, they already talking about Dame to the Knicks, which you know.
I tell you what, I would rather see him there than Kemba for real. When Kemba was benched, everybody was shocked. I was like, he doesn't fit in with them.
Yeah. It's just people understanding the offensive prowess of Kemba, and then that's where the struggle was for the Knicks last year. They thought that, and I did too, that would be a weapon that they'd be able to utilize. But talk about culture, right? We talked about trades last time. When somebody come in, they got to be able to fit the culture first because, you know, it might be a disconnect there. And, you know, Tibbs is who he is, and that culture is what they are. Like, you got to be able to be gritty and grind and figure it out.
Yeah, there's no changing Tibbs. He's got leeway to do whatever he wants. So either you fit in or you get out.
And he don't care what the ownership say. Like you think about they paying him big dollars, right, and he sat him down. So it's whatever. But I'm looking at that. I'm not trading Ben Simmons for C.J. McCollum. That's not enough. Not enough. Norman Powell and C.J. McCollum. Not C.J. McCollum, Norman Powell, and Larry Nance. Like, those three aren't enough for me to make that trade if I'm Philly either. Like,
I mean, Philly's gonna have to do something at some point, though. They got to dump him.
I think everybody has to do something. I'm starting to look at the teams around the league, and everybody's starting to look like, all right, we wanted to hold out at first because we thought we could, but a lot of teams need to make some moves. You know, people were talking about possibly sending, and this would be crazy, sending Sabonis to Golden State for Wiseman, Kuminga, and Moody. That'll be crazy. That'll be crazy. And you know how, let's see what TJ thinks about that, right? Send him that. And you know what TJ said about Wiseman not being reliable health-wise.
True.
And we see what, I just saw a picture recently of Zion looking like Big Clifford the Big Red Dog. He had a whole Jordan red piece on, and he was looking like he was like 6 foot tall and 6 foot wide too. Like, he ain't looking right. So maybe James Wiseman could be that type of thing, even though him and Klay just played in their first G League game the other night. You know,
how did Klay do?
I ain't even paying no attention to it, man. I'm a little nervous. They make me a little nervous over there, man. Yeah. But
when people don't understand when Klay does.
With a mic to you?
When Klay does come back, how is he going to fit in? I mean, of course, the people got to fit around him, but how are the young guys going to react to that? I wonder. You know, your minutes are going to decrease, And he's going to have some games where he's going to be inconsistent because he's trying to get his rhythm back.
And you got to let him have it.
Yeah.
And you got to let him work through that. We'll see. Steve Kerr just said something interesting. He said, and I know you would love to comment on this. He said, if you can't sustain your culture during the times where you're not at your highest, when you're not winning the most, then it's not really a culture.
That is true.
Yeah, so we'll see what that looks like.
That is true.
Yeah, we'll see what that looks like. One thing, I want to hear your opinion on this, because Kyrie said, I'm not playing unless I get traded, right? And we all are looking like, well, where you going to play at? You got to get vaccinated everywhere. But hearing that and watching, what's going on in Houston, I want to see John Wall in Brooklyn.
I think that may put 2 or 3 years back on KD's career. Now you just got to get up the floor.
Yeah.
Get up the floor. And, John's going to push the ball, so, a lot of times KD's going to get walk-up threes because Wall's going to push the ball, suck the defense in, flip back to a 7-footer.
and talk about what that does for Harden, because Harden just talked about how he's been struggling trying to figure out how to balance the playmaker role right now in the scoring space.
Yep, because with especially with Harris out and then Kyrie not being there, he can't choose one. He's got to do everything.
He can't split the load,
yeah.
Right? And he's not in shape for it,
right?
So you throw J Wall there, and BK too.
That'd be a nice fit.
That's what I don't even care if John Wall is not John Wall that he was in DC. But if he's just 85% of that, which I think he is, I think he probably is about 95% of that.
Yeah. Well, he didn't look bad last time he stepped on the floor with Houston. It was just Houston.
Yeah, so I'm throwing that out there. Let's find a way to get John Wall to Brooklyn and have some hooping.
But don't skip over the Kyrie part though. Where has he mentioned a team that he wants to possibly go to?
In all honesty, I think that with the Kyrie situation and the Ben Simmons situation, because I had some people reach out and say, you guys should say something more about this. And I was like, I really want to see what happens in All-Star break.
When they say we should comment more on it,
they want to see us really go in, see what we really think.
No, they don't.
I know that's what the people want. That's what they don't. We don't want to do it because how it may make us come off, but it's almost time. But I was telling people that I think we're going to wait until All-Star break, because by that time, a decision will have to have been made for Ben, for him personally, if he want to get paid. And then we'll see what's going to happen in Brooklyn. Because if there's not a trade going by then is he going to retire? Is he going to do what? Something else is going to happen. Because we're still in the first quarter. So I think I'm going to take some time to get some more information.
Well, there are teams that could potentially accommodate him.
OKC?
They need it. But the Wizards got Bill. Bill isn't vaccinated, is he?
Nah, but it's DC. So you don't have to be vaccinated in DC, remember?
We still got other places he can't play, though.
Nah, I think that's only like in Canada, but that's why the rules are so crazy, because if you're traveling to New York, you can play. But even then, all that stuff sounds crazy. But I'm like, let's just see what happens, because eventually something's going to have to go. It's going to be about 40 games in. Are you going to play or are you not going to play? Right? And by the time that happens, we'll know, and we'll have, I appreciate him for standing on his ground, though. He's saying that he's not going to play. I appreciate that. I respect it.
I respect him for that. When people say they want to really jump into it, you have a strong opinion, and people say you're hating or you don't understand, because you know how strongly I feel about the attack that Stephen A. Smith got. Mm-hmm. And people fail to realize Stephen A. Smith has been on Kyrie's neck for 2 years. This is way before the vaccination stuff. It's just some of the other antics, and it's not that he's attacking him personally, whatever. He's just talking about what you see in terms of what you're doing to your team.
Yeah.
And and it's just
Yeah.
what general manager is going to trust him?
Yeah. But that's why I want to wait a little bit before we go into that. Because, we don't ever say anything without having some information.
True.
Right? Anything we talk about in basketball here is because we know what we're talking about, or somebody that knows more than us taught us. Right? So we're going to sit on that. We'll see about Kyrie, but I want to see Jay Wall out there in BK and get it popping. Because that'll be prime time. I think that'll shift some things up. And it'll be fun to see, that guy Wall back on the court doing his thing. If you know, you know. If you know, you know. But today's episode, we're gonna steer it a little bit different. As you guys know, when we talk about bridging the gap, it's a platform and it's a phrase that really gives us a wide range of ability to talk. Between Coach and I, there's so much that we've experienced together and separately, and just a generational difference too of perspective that allows us to give you an inside look of what it looks like to get some game from your OG, and that doesn't just stay on the basketball court. That goes to personal life. That goes to business. And for right now, Coach and I, we're about 2.5, almost 3 years in to an international business endeavor that has taught us a lot, that has tested us a lot. And often we hear, especially in social media, back in the day, they probably had them in like those little conventions and conferences where you can come hear somebody who was a world-renowned marketer or whatever, and everybody pays $100 to go sit in the hotel,
Still got 'em.
And learn from them. And right now on social media, you got guys like Gary Vee or these really, really, really high-profile guys on Instagram or whatever telling you how businesses go. A lot of the language is academic. A lot of it you can't necessarily relate to. And some of even the goals and spaces of things are in, it's not really the same. We're going to talk about business today, and we're going to talk about it the way we understand it, the way we'll be able to understand it on layman terms, right? And from a perspective of getting rich is not the goal, right? Business for us is not about being super rich. That's the cause is different. One of the effects is the money, right? But the number one thing for us is autonomy and control over our time, because we believe time is more important than money. Coach came to that realization years ago, right? And that's something that I was able to learn through my lessons and things. So we're going to talk to you guys about building businesses based on our experiences, how it's been with us, how we got to this point, and not from a space to where, hey, if you want to make $1 million today, this is how you do it. Or if you want 1 million followers and learn how to brand it, this is how you do it. We ain't doing none of that shit. We're going to keep it real. We're going to tell you about what hurts and how you had to get to that space and everything. So, man, OG, I'll let you go first. Just talking about just your past experiences from the beginning with building businesses, period, and how you got to this point now to where you're still doing it, but where it started at. And then tell the honest truth, because really, like, when I get on social media and I see people talking, there's people talking fluff, hours and stuff, and they going in depth about nonsense. So we got to be able to filter and balance it out for somebody, even if we only get 5 people that like it.
First and foremost, most people that do know me know when I start talking about stuff that I'm really passionate about, I'm going to be real upfront and frank about it. And my first opportunity in terms of trying to build a business similar to this, it taught me a lot, negatively and positively. And let's just say this, I have learned that it is very, very difficult to go into business with something that you're passionate about, and you're going to put 110% of all you have into it, and you're going into business with somebody that you know. That is extremely difficult. It's a situation where you got to be extremely lucky to find somebody that is ultimately like you, or it's a situation where you can push that person to the side and carry on without losing that person and continuing your dream too. But, you know, I had a lot of issues with people kind of in that mode where that's my guy. That's my guy, you know, we good, you know, knowing that we got a deadline to meet by Friday, or knowing that we got to put in an extra 5 hours one night and pull an all-nighter, you know, and they not currently invest. That's my guy. We'll be all right. You know, and that's the stuff that is hard to digest and, you know, and move on from in terms of, you know, building your relationship and business with somebody at the same time. And I vowed that I would never do that again. And then here I am.
What capacity though, when you say somebody you know? Because, you know, even when I think about that, when I think about it in retrospect, the people that I thought I knew, I ain't really know them the way that, you know, I know them now after I see the real them. You know what I'm saying?
Well,
Was it like friends, family?
Family members and friends. I've had both. And trust me, just because somebody's got the same blood flowing through their veins doesn't mean anything. Because at the end of the day, you have to do what's best for you. They have to do what's best for them. And you'll catch yourself a lot of times being dragged down by trying to look out for somebody who isn't trying to achieve the same goals you are.
Right.
Or willing to put forth the same sacrifice. You know, and friends, you guys have an idea together and you guys are in the same industry, and, you know, it could really pop off because you guys know each other, you're friends, and you're good at what you do. Building a business is so much more difficult than these people like that you know talk about on the social media platforms and stuff like that. Like half that stuff is BS. It's anything that's that easy to achieve. It ain't real.
Right.
It ain't real.
Let's give them some like specifics, right? Like what type of stuff? Because, you know, we talk about scouting reports,
Right.
Right now we kind of giving out the business scouting report from our perspective. Like, what type of things happen to you that you're like, man, I should have paid attention to that habit before because it cost me so and so thousands of dollars, or blah 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 blah, just so people can kind of see patterns and behavior.
All right. Well, first, let me say certain things that may have occurred, I let occur because of a friendship. Like when you're in business with somebody, you're going into business with somebody. We all know everything should be in writing. Everything should be looked over by counsel, legal counsel, everything. But when it's your friend, your family, you're so enthusiastic about starting the business that you skip all that stuff. And that's when it becomes dangerous. Because once you're in it and you sacrifice so much of your personal time, your finances, your experience, your relationships, you know, you're in it.
Yeah.
You know, you get to a certain point, there's no return. You know, you talk about you being here in Dubai. You're almost 3 years in now. All the work you put in now, you ain't about to give it to somebody else.
Man. And oh man, how that goes. So you just said something important. Legal. Having things written in contract and, you know,
Scoured over.
Right.
By somebody who's in that industry, who knows the ins and outs and can explain it to you in layman terms.
Friend or family.
Yes.
Like that's a lesson learned right there. Young cats getting into anything. You know, at the beginning, you got to do some things off the word, but you got to have your limit. It's to a certain point, you be like, nah, right? We reached that point now where we're not going no further until we got this written in contract. I don't care if you haven't made a dime, right? We haven't made a dime from this podcast. Coach and I got an understanding and everything. But when we start to go into other things going, contracts. He puts up his contract. He has his own lawyer. I'll put mine up and have my own. And that's my family. Right? But that's just understood right there so everybody's protected because, and we got the same motivations right now, but let's say, what was your motivation behind starting your business or that very first business? What was your inspirational motivation behind it?
Being able to make a living, a good living, being my own boss and making a difference in someone's life.
Right.
Because it's something like we're doing now. And this was working with, young men and women in terms of mentoring them, coaching them, and helping them, move on through life. And, like I said, being able to do that at your own pace, that's what I strive for.
Now,
And,
you say that, right? That was your motivation.
right.
But what you don't know is what your partner's motivation was. And eventually it's going to come out when you're not making any money at first, because it'll probably be 3 to 5 years before you start making some money you can keep. Right? Things ain't going well. And even though we're business owners, technically, we got to chalk it up to the game a lot of times and just roll with the punches. Then you start to see what somebody else's motivation really is. Right. Oh, you thought this was going to be a quick lick.
Right.
You thought this is just going to be some money that you can run up quick and go trick it off later, while you eat sandwiches for this cover two. You making your lunch, right? You taking a few extra kids home at night just to stay after, and you see the difference now.
Yeah. I equate it to like coaching. A lot of people think that being on the sideline and being in that chair far to the left is a glamorous spot, and everybody wants to be there in that suit in front of the crowd, and you're the focal point of what's going on outside of the 5 players on the court. But they have no idea the work that goes into getting to that spot and keeping that spot. And that's what, growing a small business is like. There's a lot of hours that's going to be, put in behind the scenes that people just don't know, don't understand. The stuff that we do now, some of our families are amazed that we take care of everything on ground, 2 of us, and we have a pretty big operation, considering we just started in a pandemic and it's just 2 of us.
That's it, right? And then I now have the bright idea to start a whole nother thing on the side and drag you into that, right? But now you said that was your first experience.
Yep.
Was a similar basketball type of thing. Around what age was that?
I'd say my late 20s. Right.
And you were still hooping too, still professional. That was the main source of income, right?
Right. And just to be straight up, I wasn't in the first league, China, top league in Italy or Spain. I'm playing overseas. I'm not killing it. Yeah. So everything that I spend, I feel it. You know what I'm saying?
Right. You might be like, like a little bit above a teacher's salary.
Yeah. Right? I feel it.
But you was getting it. So, and just for some background info, what was your college major in? Because, there's people that be like, I didn't go to school for business, so I can't be a businessman. And we're going to come back to that later, too.
It's funny. I started off at Temple in criminal justice. Always wanted to do something.
You're a Fed. Yeah.
Shut up, man.
I told you, Shaft. I told you.
Always wanted to do something like that. But I didn't know that the criminal justice department at Temple was a part of like their law school.
Oh yeah.
And after I think my second class, I realized there was no way I was gonna pass that and play for John Chaney. So I just did the best thing. I just got up out of it. I dropped that joint quick. And then I switched to sports management. Went through that. Then I transferred to Coppin State, and the year I transferred to Coppin State, they phased that program out. So
sports management.
Yep. So I'm sitting there with I'm going to be a junior because I sat out a year, and I only needed I think 15 credits to graduate.
Oh, that's low. That's like one
so then I could have got my could have got my master's while I was there. So they phased it out. The only way for me to take it then was for me to take it at Towson.
Oh.
And so I just needed to drive there every day. It was easy. Fang was having that.
Yeah.
He shut that down quick. So I switched to criminal justice, man, and I got my degree, from Coppin criminal justice, and here I am. Like I said, I didn't go to school for business, but I'm sharp enough to know how to get through.
Right. Exactly. Right. That's what that taught you. So first time that don't go right, mid to late 20s. Right. Same type of thing. You learned your lesson legally. The things need to be in writing. You can't trust those close to you. Does that kill your entrepreneur spirit? Or does that like just make you more hesitant and understanding? Like, cause you get into it again. And I want you to kind of tell me like, what's your mindset after that? And then how do you get into another entrepreneur?
It didn't kill my spirit or anything. It did make me hesitant. And it made me say, I will only do this if I'm by myself. If I'm that way I know if something happens, it's on me. If I have to depend on someone else, I'm not doing it. And I was a part of something else, a different type, same industry but different structure. Still helping young men and women, and coaching and mentoring and things like that. And when you have one idea, someone else has 2, 3 ideas, and they're all over the place. It's hard to move forward as a unit if you're scattered everywhere. We got to be laser focused on something, get something going positively, and then we can branch off and do some other things when we have somewhat of a safety net. But if we get to a certain point where we're raising the company up, and all of a sudden we start moving too fast, knowing that we're not big fish in the pond anyway. You know what I'm saying? We got to start slow, and just it don't work, man. You get on to me all the time about, come on, coach, man, I'd be like, nah, listen. Yeah. If I can't see it, I ain't doing it.
Yeah. Well, so 2 things I hear there, right? One thing I hear you just saying, nah, I'm not doing it unless I'm by myself, right? Now, you say that at first, but we all know we can't do anything by ourselves, right? So what lessons do you end up learning later about like, shit, like, I know I can count on myself, and even though I want to do it all by myself, I ain't gonna be able to sustain it that way. Like, what conclusion do you come to there? Because we from a basketball culture, so we know better than that.
Well,
so
I learned that I did need people. I needed to delegate responsibilities and roles, but I also became better at judging, people's character, work ethic, and and their ideas and goals and their mindset. And I was always an asshole, some people say.
Hell yeah.
But I became better at managing both sides of my personality. The work side where I'm going to push you, but also, my personal side where, I'm going to befriend you, support you, encourage you, things like that. And so I've been doing a real good job, I think, of getting people to trust me, believe in me, and want to work with me. And seeing that the only reason I might spaz out on them one day for, not doing something right or putting forth their best effort is because they know that I'll do it. And so, so now I'm kind of in a situation where now, I'll say, if you're supposed to be my friend, I can say whatever I want to you. You're supposed to I can't agree with you all the time.
And that's cool.
Yeah. And,
so we talked about that first business experiment, or the entrepreneur example taught you, I got to keep my friends there and I got to keep my business here. I got to keep things legally structured so we know. And then the second one taught you how if everybody's not in the same lane, on the same vision, and we can't come to a common agreement, it's going to shatter eventually anyway if the foundation is not there. Right. But like, what's the turning point, right? Like, what happens and it gets to you where you be like, nah, this it?
As I've told you many times, when it gets to a point where the sacrifice goes beyond you and affects your family, your household, your loved ones, then you got to pull back.
What does that mean though? Because
like, say you're married, and you're starting a business with somebody, and it going in that it's a lot of sacrifice, because being able to put everything you have into this business may take away from your family time, may take away from your stable 9 to 5, and you're taking a big risk. And so there's already going to be stress. That's just a part of it. But if it gets to the point where your stress is filtering into your home and you're not seeing any growth over a certain period of time, and you're bringing unnecessary burden to your loved ones, you got to make a decision. That's why you see coaches step down from big time programs sometimes, because it's what's more important to you,
right?
Your career or your family,
right? All right. So up to this point, right? First business doesn't go well. Learn your lesson. Second attempt doesn't go well. Learn your lesson. How much money do you think you lost between those two ventures?
Probably just straight up cash in and basically like sweat equity, maybe about 30.
Right. And that's with you having a job, right?
Right.
And so that's $30K of your own money outside of what you pay for your everyday needs, your bills, your whip, your life, and taking care of family. There's an extra 30 that you had put in that brought you nothing back.
Right.
Right.
And some people say, well, I ain't nothing, but that's 20 years ago. And then it's your money that you worked hard for that you could have. Would you rather lose your money or spend it on yourself?
Yes.
I'd rather be in the Bahamas.
Right.
You know what I mean?
And then we're not inheritance.
Yeah.
We don't come from inheritance.
Yeah.
We don't come from anything being passed down. So my 30K that I lose or my 10K that I lose, let's say that might be me saving 10K out of making 27K that year to invest in something that brought me zero back but headache.
And, when I talked about the sweat equity part, you think about the time that my case, and for example, the time that I put in based on my experience, the hours, okay, and the relationships, because I know everybody. So whatever we need, I know somebody can give us a deal or help us get it done. That's valuable. Like people, the stuff that I was doing, we're talking about that's $125,000 a year job. I'm doing it for nothing, with the hopes of one day just being able to be my own boss and make my own schedule.
Yeah. So that's 2, right? And so now, how many more attempts do you have after that? like 5, 6, or whatever else?
Maybe one more.
One more before you get here.
Yeah.
Right? And then we'll talk about, shout out to Scrib, how, you got into this place where you're like, I'm just going to do things this way, right? And how we go here.
Yeah. So you mentioned Scrib. So Jonathan Scribner, he owns a company in the DC area called Hoop Ed. And, it started out as a basketball company. Then it morphed into basketball / all sports and things like that. And I started with him in, I think it was 2007, once he started it. And me and a couple other guys. And so I was one of the main coaches, and we started from the bottom.
Basement.
The bottom. And over the years, it started to grow. But the one thing that, as it started to grow, I was always allowed to do my thing on the side because he knew I wanted to coach. And so whenever I was free, I could come back and I jumped right into my leadership role. And I'm recruiting new coaches, evaluating them, training them, camp director, program director, all that stuff. And I was just in a space where I was comfortable in that I could work hard, but not as long, and still have freedom to do my own thing, And
that's after you had already had that third attempt, and it was no good, right?
Yeah, so I from that point on, for me, just kind of like just having a regular job, working with Scrib, and then coaching on the side, and then doing my own private training, I just came to the conclusion that I'm not going to go in with anybody. I'll just come in and be a high-paid hourly employee,
right?
So that way I can just jet when I want,
right? So and that's an important revelation, right? Because we hear so much about business and people being business owners and, you got to have this, you got to have that. God made everybody completely different. Mm-hmm. There are degrees onto where some people are here, some people are there, but it's supposed to be that way. We're different. Not everybody is built or is supposed to take those sacrifices and those risks. And as soon as you realize what's best for you, you're allowed a lot more peace. Right? A lot more peace. Because like you just said, and I remember you talking about, I always joke, you guys hear me joke about every time I call coach after I finished playing for him, he was somewhere else. Like he was just chilling, right? And that's him finding like, look, all right, I know how to hustle. Because, the difference between here in America is coach had a full-time job and then he had a couple hustles on the side that'll get him to, the 100, whatever number that he says, I got to have this so I can have what I need. Right, my vacation space, and everybody that's out there that's hearing people say you got to have a job or you got to have a business or whatever else. No, you just got to maximize what you want and what you have and make it work within the space that you need to work without losing yourself. Right, and you hear that because not everybody can take three L's and then bounce back up and keep going because that's a different test of adversity.
Yeah, that's just that versatility and survival instinct that's just from basketball, man. That ain't nothing but from hooping, man.
Yeah, we tied all back to it.
Yeah, that's just from hooping. Like, going up against man.
Yeah.
But you've been practicing against zone all the time. But you adapt.
Pulling up to different areas.
Yeah. Just
that's hostile environment.
Yeah, going to other countries to play, language barrier, different basketballs, different environment. I mean, it's just basketball, man. That prepares you for anything.
Yeah.
That's why you see guys who played sports, in particular basketball, if they have a strong personality and strong work ethic, they're able to survive in almost any industry.
Yeah. So to sum up, right, before we'll get into me, I'll break down a little bit. From those experiences, kind of want something like, what were you able to learn in general? And then what were you able to learn about your strengths? Right? Because we talked about learning you need legal advice, counseling, blah, blah, blah. But what were you able to understand about your strengths as a leader and a businessman and then overall?
Strong personality.
Mm-hmm.
Like I 100% will control a room when I walk in. That's just bottom line. You could have gone to MIT, but if this is my space, I can make it believable that I am a leader and that you wouldn't mind following. That's just me, and I'm a people person. Anybody that's with me, whether they're at the bottom of the totem pole at the top, we're all you feel as though we're all equal. And I think that's one of my major strengths right there.
Yeah. Now, what did you learn through that kind of had to humble you? Like, what happened in those times, that got you to where you are here, to where you realized that, oh, damn.
Moving too quick. Once, and it's funny, I just talked to Hashim about this earlier today, staying humble and hungry.
Oh, man. Yeah, I bet he feeling himself.
Just getting to a certain spot and thinking, oh, I made it.
Yeah.
Now, what I'm saying, I can relax a little bit, or I can step outside the box a little bit and do something that I normally wouldn't do just yet. And one little thing goes wrong and you're back to square one. And you're kicking yourself like, man, I knew I shouldn't have done that. I should have just waited. And so that's one of the things I learned. That's why, you and I probably bump heads all the time because I'm so cautious with things.
Yeah. But for good reasons, right? So from my end, my entrepreneurial experiences were very recent and were like within the same like maybe like 4 or 5 year timeline, and all of them were while I was in school, and so both of them had to do with the clothing industry, apparel. And it's funny because I look back at home now, and everybody that's in the city got a clothing something, and a lot of my people was like, "Yo, you were one of the first ones that I knew." It's like 2000. 12, 13, 14, and 15, right? Where I was trying to bump it off and get it going. But both of those times, because even within, the basketball time, you, Coach Thomas, my uncle always said basketball wasn't your end all to be all. You didn't have to only play there because you're smart enough to do others.
Just
right?
a vessel.
Right? And so I had friends. One of them who was my brother that I met in college. He had an idea. He was creative about things. And, sometimes I see something creative and I can see the end of it. Like I can see where it starts and I can see where it can go. And it was my dog. Like, and me and my other bros were around, and we were like, yo, and he didn't come back after freshman year of college. So I was like, yo, we still gonna support you. You don't have to be in school for us to not rock with you. We'll help you get this off the ground. Right? He's like, oh, for real? I was like, man, between my guys and everybody that I know, and you know this too, they know that like when I'm gonna apply myself to something, I'm gonna really give it my all, and we can take it somewhere, right? We can see something clear. So I remember, and we're just doing this off the humble, right? I was in school for business and economics for my first 2 years, but I ended up switching after my sophomore year. One, because after trying my own business attempts and then listening to certain people, I understood that there was a difference, that some people can just make you into an employee to work for somebody else's business, right? But owning a business, you don't necessarily need anybody to teach you how to do that. You need to learn structure and organization,
right?
More so than anything, and managing money. So I just switched to what was going to get me out of school in time. But it ended up being that I learned way more from those professors than I would in other space. So I was communications, and I still had a business minor and psychology minor, but all of those things ended up helping. So I was with my dog. We was working, like I'm talking, we were doing photo shoots. I got my first credit card, and I was using my credit card to buy a product, and we were making things happen, being creative, throwing pool parties and pop-up shops and all types of stuff, right? And we was moving forward, and me still understanding that while I'm coming with the business acumen, it's still his, right? But we haven't put anything in writing or anything like that. But what ended up blowing us up is non-business stuff. Right, and this is where I'm starting to learn that as a man, because that's who I'm dealing with, right? Working with other men, their principles and how they operate with, their loved one, that's a woman or whatever else. It says a lot about how much you can trust their stability within business. And so we ended up, this is like I said, my brother, we ended up having a full fallout. And I probably lost, and I'm talking about maybe I lost like $4,000 or $5,000, and I'm in like junior year.
That's a grip.
And like I'm broke.
That's
right?
A grip.
Like I ain't even had a car yet. I know I had just got a car, and I had just bought a MacBook that I still got now. And my aunt always laughed at me because I had to write down exactly what I had to work while training to get it, right? And so we ended up not popping, and I think he might have still been going through it, but our relationship was severed because, at the time I didn't understand, but I started to grow and realize that I can't work with somebody that doesn't have the same morals and values as me as a man, foundationally.
But was there a situation where you ever could have intervened and possibly helped?
I tried that though. That's what it is. Because at first that's my brother before anything, right? That's my dog. And then when it was something big happened, and I remember sitting and myself said something to him, and then somebody his uncle said something to him, and we all saw his reaction to what we were saying, and it let us know that no matter what we said, he wasn't gonna rock, he wasn't gonna listen, and the same pattern was gonna keep happening. So it hurt my heart. And then business on the other side, I learned the same thing you learned. You can't do business with everybody, especially even if you love them. Right. You learn that the hard way. And so boom, that's the first thing I learned, right? Lessons learned, So I go into the senior year of college like, all right, we just gonna keep going, right? And then, I come back to grad school and get things going, and I got another teammate who, man, he was killing it. He had blew his knee out in college, so he went into fashion and stuff early. And actually he started before I started helping with my dog. right? He showed me. I used to go, do some things with him, give him some opinion and stuff. And he went and he did some things and he started to blow up. He was doing some stuff with some rappers. He was making some things going, but he was doing everything by himself. And he was still in our college town. So when I went back to grad school and I was going to be there, like you said, basketball, it takes up so much of our time. So I don't have basketball anymore. The first time in my life I'm in school without hooping. So talk about how much time you got, Larry. So I'm like, I talked to him. I'm like, yo, I'm going to come in with you. You know what I'm saying? And I'm going to work with you to do this. So, I said, he was like, yeah, let's do it because you've been helping on behind the scenes anyway. Let's put our stuff together and you control this, I control that. We'll go. Right? He had already built himself up a following. And I had been there along the way and he had did a lot of work. So I was like, let's make it happen because I'm here now. I put money in again, put a plan together again. We had a plan together. We were going to Miami to go to conferences. We were sending stuff here. I was getting out of my comfort zone with things, pop-up shops, putting our money in, like putting in a grip of money, right? Like I'm planning my life, my next 5 to 7 years around how our company is going to be built, right? And just before finishing grad school, it was probably 4 months before my last class in December and 5 months before I said I was going to move to LA for it, we had some issues. Right, sometimes, and I think we hear a lot of people don't understand the idea of ownership. I can own 2% of something and still be an owner. Right. And that's just based on my investment. Right. So if I put 10,000 in to initially start, even though you've already gotten in, my 10,000 gives me some type of ownership.
Or what some people don't know, what you bring to the table.
That too.
I mean, it could be just your experience,
right?
Right. However you contribute in a positive manner to the company,
right? But that doesn't mean that I got the last say on everything because even some owners they got different levels on the board, right? And so there was a misunderstanding with it, and I would say that I put maybe another 8 to 10 of my own money into that, right? There was some ego things that was going on. And some differences that were happening. And he had been around like a lot of other stuff that was going on. And again, one of the main things that made our relationships ever was an understanding of how you're taking care of things outside of business. It trickled in to business and started to affect, like you said, don't let your business affect your home. But when your home starts to affect your business, right? That's another issue.
Right.
And so through all of that, I lost another, whatever amount of money. And I remember going to my cousin and I was like, shout out to Ryan Dorsey, who's opening up, I believe, the Winston in Philly. He already has Recess and Dos Tacos, Big Dog. And I remember telling him, I was like, yo, like, he's been there because every time I had an idea, I went to him later, right? And people didn't know I had him in my back pocket giving me advice. And I never was going to tell anybody that I had somebody like that until it got to a time. But he was like, man, for that $15K that you lost, what you learned, some kids never get from $150K at Harvard.
That's true.
Right? And so that started putting money in a different perspective for me. So I was like, all right, But now I learned that I can't do business with somebody that doesn't have the same moral complex as me. As a man, just the bottom, like there's some things that integrity-wise, respect-wise, honesty-wise, the way you treat women, the way you treat things, like all of those things, they're really going to play a role in how we do business and how you're going to relate with people. And then the other part was me understanding too that even though I had ideas, I would have to delegate. And to be able to step in, it's like servant leadership. At points I'm a lead, at other points I'm a follow, right? And you gotta let that happen, right? Don't get out here.
I don't know about that follow part. Come on.
All I do is follow you with the Who Mountain stuff. I don't say nothing. That's all I do. What you want, big guy? I got it. But that's what my space was. Like I had a good understanding of visions and putting together creative things and making those things work. And that was working, but I had to learn those hard lessons of you can't trust everybody, like you got to watch how you build relationships and who you're building relationships with. Some people that are only looking to assist you because of the allure they think is with your company or what could potentially be there. networking across and not up. Sometimes when you talking about you're at the bottom and you want to get to, let's say, we want to get to be on NBC, CNN, ABC, but we don't have that type of, program right now. So we just got to work with the people who are on the same level as us, who can sacrifice the same amount of things, and we'll get up there together. But what only keeps you going that way is having a solid plan. Having a solid plan, having a solid mission and vision, so you have those bumpers like they do in the bowling alley, so that whenever you're rolling too far to the left, instead of getting a gutter, you just get knocked back in. Right? And so now I'm operating like that. I'm also operating thinking that, just like you, I've learned where my limit was for working for somebody. Right? Like being in grad school where everybody was 20 years my senior, my professors were too, being pushed to go get a PhD, and then seeing what that circle was like of people and where people were, these are smart people, and being in those rooms and being like, man, hell no. Right? So that starts to push me to where labels don't mean anything to me anymore, because some people got them and don't mean anything. Right? What people call intelligence, that's here, there, that's different. And so now I'm not willing to just get behind and follow anybody anymore, because people were more willing to follow me and I don't have anything. And I'm just young, so I don't feel as good about giving away my next 10 years of my prime to some company just to be doing it. I looked up and I'm sour about it. So now the money looks different. So that's when I was like, all right, I'm going to go to Philly. I'm going to learn how to run businesses under my cousin, and I'm going to just sacrifice for this next 4 or 5 years, because it wasn't a dollar amount that could make me happy anymore. It was the control and autonomy. That was the mission, right? So that's how I get there. But let's talk about what type of PTSD you get from those lessons. What does that do to you now as you move forward?
It instantly causes me to overreact sometimes the moment something jars my memory. Like, I'm sure you've seen that. Like, I will snap in a minute on anybody if something's going down and I'm giving you some advice based on my experience, and you want to continuously go down the same road, and it's affecting all of us. Man, I'll choke you.
And that's the hardest part, right? To where it's like, from experience as a coach that you don't want to just come off being like, yo, especially now we working with peers, adults, yo, just shut up and listen. I already been through this. To where you gotta, like, respectfully, because that's how you want to be talked to. Be like, look, man, like, I'm telling you because I know, but you gotta trust me. And that's the thing. Coach King is one of the most genuine people I know ever, no matter what, right? And I feel like I have that same, those same characteristics. But what people don't know is that. They don't know how genuine we are, right? They don't know that. And 7 times out of 10, they done had interaction with somebody that gave them the same type of adverse reaction that we have now. So now we got to battle those things too, because we all got some type of PTSD from somebody messing us over. But it hurts us even more because it's like, I'm having to give you so much just to tell you to believe me. I got you. I got you, right? And so that's the same thing I deal with, like trying to figure it out. And then the other half of me is like, I think I've always been told, yo, you'll be fine, man. Like I've always told, like, yo, you good, you young, you good, you smart, you got this and that going for you, you good, right? And by the grace of the God, like, I don't know how I am where I am. Well, God is the reason why I am where I am at this place. Because, I'm not ever going to lie. I don't have shit. I'm not rolling in no money nowhere. This ain't like monetarily. I got family. I got people that love me. And those are the things that keep me from falling off and getting too materialistic or worldly about stuff, because I spend enough time like, all right, I can't let a dollar amount, dictate how people should see me, right? Still don't make it any easier looking into my account and I'm like, yo, like I put in too much work not to have this, but the only reason I can keep going is because I know that my foundation as a man, who I am, is more than what money is.
Yeah, it's a big difference in being upset over not having enough finances to have the lavish thing.
Yeah.
It's okay to be frustrated when you don't have enough finances in terms of take care of basic daily living. It's different,
Yeah.
And even in that capacity, I always put in perspective like this, because I've been some places that were really bad, and I say,
Yeah, it could be
on my worst day,
yeah,
there's somebody out there 10 times worse.
Listen, my mom said it all the time. Thank God I don't look like what I've been through.
Right.
Right? So like even with that being said, I know just relative to what I see and what feels like is right for me, I feel like there's more coming, right? It's just that it's just so frustrating hearing, yeah, the man that you are is not a dollar amount can't get there, blah, blah, blah. And then whether it's true or not, you see people out here all the time that's, doing some wild things to get their bread. They messing people over, whatever, and they got it. Even though, we learned this lesson earlier, you don't want to count or watch anybody's pockets, because you never know what they did to get that money and what is going on with them at home. Because no matter what happens with Business King, we sleep well at night.
Oh, for sure.
Knowing we haven't messed anybody over,
Right.
knowing nobody's going to be like, yo, those jerks did this to us, blah, 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 blah.
Yep.
So I take peace in that. But it's so scary thinking that, like, what if this don't work? Or what if it don't bring in something? And then I'm like,
well,
I want to do this, I want to do that. And, like, where I'm going to go? You know what I'm saying?
If you think back to when you were inquiring about the decision to go play or stay and finish grad school, and I said it's a no-brainer. Because by doing the early work, as we say, keep somebody out the paint,
Right.
you put yourself in a position where you have a sort of a parachute right now.
Yeah.
Because being a former basketball player, being one of the leaders on the team, being one of the leaders on campus, being one of the leaders in the community, doing the early work with your academics and stuff, you have a safety net. We can drop you anywhere. You can do your thing and be okay. You may not reach the pinnacle of your goals, but trust me, you'll be above average for sure.
Yeah. And that's one of the things where I was able to recognize too is you can't, stepping into the business space, and I think after you hear what I'm gonna say, you're gonna go take it a little bit further. You really got to understand who you are, right? Like, because you're gonna feel, Nipsey's right here for a reason, because he said, going through what I went through, I felt every single emotion there is to feel before getting to my end goal. And as basketball players, because we always tie this back to basketball. With basketball, you feel those 30-point losses. You feel those buzzer beater losses. Yep. You feel those days where you practice all day to get something and maybe you twisted your ankle, you couldn't play that day, and there was a scout coming. You felt all type of different moments of adversity to where they tested you and you had to bounce back from that, right? It's different in life because some of those times may set you back a few years, right?
Yeah.
Right? But you, in the midst of that, you just can't lose yourself, because that's when it all changed. Like, you can't go in there as a business owner and that is your identity.
Right.
Right. That can't be it. Because if that's where you drawing all of your energy to and that's where you lying at, and it's like, that's who I am, when that shit fall, what's next? If that don't work, then what's next for you?
Yeah, if you can't pivot, you're in the wrong game, man.
Man, for sure.
In the wrong game.
And now that we get there, right, before we talk about Hoop Mountain and Dubai, everything that we just talked about, basketball led us here, right? And we use basketball all the time because that's our metaphor for life. That's what we went through. But for you, when you think about the businesses, the failed friendships, the failed partnerships, the losing of money, and you can look at it now clearly, how is basketball and your experience with it and where you took it helped you get ready for that, or helped you experience it, or helped you dissect it and digest it?
It's just an escape for me because I know that no matter what I encounter, I can always survive. Just because, you talk about those emotions. I've experienced every emotion when it comes to basketball. The highs, the lows, and from what I've learned, there's nothing I haven't seen, or there's nothing that I can encounter today, tomorrow, that is going to put me in a space where I feel there's no hope. There's always going to be a way to adjust. Always. I may not like what I have to do for a certain period of time, but I'll be able to get myself, in a better space. And in the mode that I do that, I can still be proud of who I am.
Yep.
And confident as a man.
The interesting thing for you is you felt it on the coach side and the player side. And that's two different feelings.
Right.
Because as a coach, you don't have any control of what happens on the court physically. You're just relaying the message and hoping that it translates and everybody gets in. Right. And you're a player first. So we're talking about those players that became coaches and those players that could go, right? Those players that had the ball in the hand and where if the momentum was shifting in the game, I can shift it. I can steer the ship back around. So now you know how it feels to be a player and, carry the weight of teams' wins and losses. And you were like, all right, I can take that because I was out there and I did it. But now as a coach, you know how it's like, I'm trying to lead these guys. I'm trying to tell them I've been there already. I seen that fall. The same way you say you did it in business. Just listen to me. And you just got to hope that they do it.
Yeah. That's why a coach's job is so hard, man. You got these Monday, what do they call it? Monday. Monday quarterbacks or something like that. Always got something to say. Being a coach is extremely difficult. You gotta know personalities. You gotta be able to manage them. It's just you gotta be able to mesh them, and you gotta be able to to build them. And that's just tough, man. And like you said, you're completely out of control. Once you can try to build culture, lead by example by making sure that everything that you talk about, everything that you're preaching, that you're doing yourself, at the end of the day, you don't know what's going to happen.
Man.
Yeah.
And that's the thing with business, right? Our success is completely contingent on other people.
Currently.
Well,
it's turning around a little bit where it's more on us. But
well, let me say it this way. We've done the work on our end, and we know what we're going to bring. Now, we just need kind of the stars to align, right? The same way a championship team does, to where it's like, all right, everybody's starting to understand the message and trust the system. And now we can start getting more and more in. And to where some of those times it's like, we talk all the time, you just like, if they just, we got it, just one step at a time. Right, because some people can't see past tomorrow. So, I mean, basketball for me helped me with being able to be accountable. So, everybody everybody's not capable of being in the forefront of a win and a loss. It's one thing to be sitting in the camera and talking when your team has won and it was because of you. It's another thing to be there when your team had expectations to win a championship or win the first ever conference title or win whatever else and you fall short. And you're at the core of that, right? And being able to take that, when you got to do it in the community, when things may happen that you can't control, and then you got to galvanize your troops, right? And you got to be the one that's leveling. Like, being able to sit on both sides of that, like,
as soon as you said that, I thought about Dame Dash.
Man, listen. Dame, man, too far in the forefront, right? But just to be able to say, like, all right, I know where we're going to go, and, my troops going to rally around me, right? And I know my strengths and my weaknesses, and I know where we can go. And if we lose, because I know if we lose, they can't take the same type of backlash from the community that I can take, so I'm going to take it all. And I'm just going to go back to the drawing board and I'm gonna make something and get something together for us to go, or I'm gonna put in some extra time in the side, right? So that helps with this here when, you know, I see something when something is not what we thought it was gonna be, and you looking like, oh, this blah 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 ain't rocking. I'm like, but OG, I see where we can take it. If I can do a little bit of this on the side, this can give us some extra. But being able to understand that when you fall, that's not the end. You got to bounce back up. The one who can get up quick enough and rebuild themselves and move on to the next one is going to win, instead of soaking in that turnover and that missed shot. I'll give you airball that tray ball. If you get that next one that's open and you shot that shot 1,000 times before,
take it.
Shoot it, right? And so now that leads us to here in Dubai and our business with Hoop Mountain Dubai. Because we've even been hinting at it since the very first episode of how we'll talk more about that experience, especially for our folks at home. Because a lot of them are like, yo, y'all in Dubai, y'all chilling. The hell we are. The hell we are.
Yeah, it's hustle just like at the crib.
Yeah, and in more way, it actually is harder hustle. Because at the crib, if I'm building Hoop Mountain on the side with my 3 degrees and whatever else, I could be working a job that's fueling everything I need during the day to keep me from stressing out about how I can pay whatever. But every country doesn't have the same government system or the same economy. It's not a capitalist system here. It's bureaucracy. You got to get approval and pay those license fees to open up your own thing. So it kind of like takes out the opportunity for the have-nots, like in the States, to where if you can just dream, you can go do your thing.
Right.
Nah, you need $1 in a dream, and maybe a few more than that. So it's like where we are right now, OG, right? You and I came here, and you told me, oh, look, you just need 2 years. Help me, get it off the ground. I need somebody I know. We just gonna train, do a little bit on the side with social media, and then boom, we good, right? You and I land here, and immediately we find out, even though the technology and the buildings are grandiose and everything is a beautiful business structure, business practices amongst people are like archaic, right? And there was no preparation for us when we got here, right? There's a few different reasons why, no one person is to blame, but either way, we weren't prepared because we didn't know, right? And so when we got here, we're in a whole different country, completely different country. And, there are a lot of things OG will probably tell you that typically when you leave the States and you go somewhere out of the country, there's certain things already put in place for you, just for accommodating you, just to make things easier. So with a coach and I, we literally put a business plan in play and had to build it, right? And I think we mentioned this before, but what I want to reiterate is the 2 different places we are in life. I just finished graduate school, and I'm about to start my journey into building the empire I want, the legacy I want, right? You are at this space to where you're looking at end game, right? And so now both of us together are like, whew, how do we manage the energy? Because that's what it is now. Like, how much energy do we have to give, and how much time? Because this type of project now, to where we are part owners of it now, to where it's a 3 to 5 year, maybe a little bit longer, to where we see real returns from it. And so our different approaches, how does that help us in this space?
Man, you gotta practice patience, man. 'Cause at this stage in my life, I'm not patient with a lot of people. I'm not patient with a lot of things. And if it weren't for me desiring to live in a place like Dubai and having brought you over here, I'd have been gone.
Yeah.
I mean, I just would have been gone just because I value my peace. And the thing that's kept me solid is the fact that everybody in my inner circle believes in this project most times more than I do. And it's not to say I don't believe in it. It's the fact that sometimes I know that in order to get it where it needs to be, I got to do X amount of things. And sometimes I question myself, like, do I want to do that again?
Because of that PTSD, right? And you did it already.
And that's tough. And so, every day there's a reminder of how much of an uphill battle it is. And it's whether it's meeting somebody new and getting their ideas and thoughts of how a business should run, or hearing and seeing someone else who is successful in terms of financial gain, but to what reason? Whether it was being here first, being the only, just for whatever reasons, it's not a situation where I'm like, we're capable of doing that, but it's just do we have the right timing? Do we have the resources? Do we have the the right connections? Because just like any place, it's a lot of about connections. The people and I'll admit I struggle with it a lot, probably 5 times a week.
No, listen,
where I'm like, man, is this really what I want to do? Because I'm not in this just financially, and here just to work and have a company. I'm in it emotionally.
We're away from family.
Yeah.
Like, we're away from, like, all of that. Like, you know what I'm saying? Being here when my brother's pops died, being here when my younger brother had my niece, like all of those different type of things. Being home, being here with the protests and all the extra stuff around the crib, and I can't be there around moms, that stuff take a toll on me too, right? Yeah. And then we look at the opportunity, right? Because we stay because we like, this really has the opportunity to be way bigger than what anybody imagined. I remember saying that when I first got here, and our franchisee owner was here, and I remember saying, like, this could be a multi-million-dollar thing if it's structured the way you guys are saying it's structured, and we go, because the one thing that you need when you're going to start a business is clear vision and mission, right? But your product got to be pristine, right? Because a lot of people, just for sustainability, you can get some sales, you know what I'm saying, if you can market it well, but to sustain, be there, longevity, and eat, your product got to be the top notch. And we are the product,
yep.
Right? And we know for sure, right, that unmatched in this area of the world, period, as a combination, right? There may be some individuals that may have some things, but the combination of the two and the total package, we like, oh man, it's not even close. But one of the biggest things we face is the business practices here, which is something that I think is going to filter out as the country grows and more business in-depth people come. But what I've learned is, this is not something that I've seen before. I didn't see until I got here, but I always thought I just needed money to have a good business. But seeing like millionaires or whatever else, or being around those places to where they got the money, but the business is, you just walk in like, whoa, like what is going on here? Like, how does this even sustain? And then like you said, we get to talk to people, and it's like, man, they don't understand. They can't see past that $1 or that 1 dirham that they'll get in that one moment, that fleeting desire type of thing. It's gonna come now, but it's gonna be gone, and you're not gonna have it coming back again because you didn't have vision or the business acumen to really understand that. And we sit and talk about that all the time, right?
Yeah, it's it's like I said, I feel like you don't have to necessarily go to business school for this stuff. Not, does it help? Yeah, it helps. But, there have been a lot of people who graduated from business school that are they're in the same boat I'm in.
And or working for somebody that just took a risk.
Yeah, so it's, would you rather have, $100, once a week, or $60, for the month?
Yeah.
And it's dealing with some of the people here. It's frustrating, and that's not to say just because we're here, because there's people back home that I used to deal with that frustrate me as well. But
it's a balance, though.
I say here the reason I guess I get frustrated because some of these things are in its infancy stage because it's so young.
Mm-hmm.
I'm like, well, yeah, it's a no-brainer that if you do this is going to happen down the road. But if they've never been down that road before, they've never heard about that road, they just don't know, and all they're seeing is other guys in the same lane that they're in being successful, doing the same thing. So you know how it gets. People get stubborn in their ways and they don't want to change.
Well, this is where, because that's been a really big issue for us. As we did what we had to do to keep the company afloat, and now it's trying to expand it. It's about growing. Now we have to collaborate, and what we're seeing is, this is something that we've learned, because we got to pivot, as you said. We've gotten to the space now to where we're looking for talent we can groom.
Yep.
Right? It's like, okay, we're not gonna go there, regardless of whether or not you're gonna help us or not. We're still gonna do it, right? But just like you said before, I don't need anybody that knows certain things because I already know it. I just need somebody I can trust, that's reliable, and that's consistent, and that's gonna work hard. Because just like with basketball, right? We had this talk with somebody, with the parent in the backyard talk, and he was talking about how, defense was the most important thing in basketball because he's a soccer guy, right? Football. Talked about the pitch. And we were talking about the fact that I can teach anybody off the street how to play defense.
Right.
I can't teach anybody to do what KD does. I can't do that. So, well, generally speaking now, we're like, okay, most people don't have the idea or the understanding of the business in the future. But that's just what we're going to deal with. But because of what we've been through, what we've learned through hoops, we're like, all right, I can recognize somebody that can be beneficial, and being around us is something that they're going to benefit from, not just financially, but personally. So we can work through this way. So on top of that, networking across, sometimes if you already got the understanding of a skill and you can just teach somebody how to operate within your business way, because Coach does that tremendously. Finding somebody that's going to fit our customer service temperament, because that's our number one thing. We don't need you guys to be basketball savants, right? That's what he's here for. But dealing with people, that's the one that we got to have, right? And I feel like that's something you end up learning through those L's that you had to take, to where it's like, nah.
I actually may have started to learn that at T.C. Williams.
Oh, man, that's not even talk.
Choosing your coaching staff, it's got to be somebody that's similar to you.
Right.
I thought it, at first I thought it was somebody just, somebody hungry and ambitious and, yearning for knowledge and want to get in the game. It's not necessarily the case all the time. And, it's difficult to cipher through, certain people and getting the right fit. The problem is you don't have a lot of time.
Yeah, there's always time.
Yeah.
Right? And so just to close out this segment, right, and these last couple questions and ideas and topics, right, there's something that ends just kind of in a positive note and pushes us forward to where our business story is going to go, completes the lesson that we've been taught through business. And, of course, we're in a different culture, so business is different here. We're learning things here, and they're growing. One thing that is always encouraging is the fact that it's always changing quickly, and we're looking for growth, okay? But something that's important, and I'll let you definitely jump in on this, because you never give yourself credit for how smart you are. You always talk about, man, but being in a space to where people can be trained to manage businesses. People can be trained to analyze numbers. People can be trained to sit down and put things through an Excel sheet and be able to go through logistics and processes, right? Because it doesn't take, anything extra but some repetition, just like basketball, repetition to go here, right? But a visionary, somebody that can put everybody in their place for them to do those logistical things and then understand that, hey, when they do these things, it's going to lead to this 4 or 5 years later, right? So this is from kind of encouraging those people who, you may listen to what people say and think you got to have this type of qualification and that type of qualification and all the other stuff. But, the visionaries are the one that put those people who can manage their accounts in those places to create that dream for them. And to be a visionary is just you understanding what that end goal can look like and what those keystones and milestones up to there get to, right? So I'll let you get in on that, on what it's been like understanding the difference between somebody with real business acumen and having a vision beyond tomorrow and just somebody who's fixated on numbers or analytics or just a momentary thing.
For me, I believe the people that are just so fixated on hard numbers are people looking for a quick fix.
Mm-hmm.
This is not a business, much like just sports in general. It's not a business where there's a quick fix. I equate this to the NBA. No matter how much money you have, doesn't guarantee you're going to have a good team.
Mm-hmm.
Think about college football. No matter how much money you have for your recruiting budget, your coaching staff, if you don't have people in place that are involved with the program or the business in more ways than just looking at the monetary value of it, you can struggle because they won't be able to manage the ups and downs and understand that it's going to come. We're on the right path. We have to stay disciplined. If you're just looking at the hardcore numbers, it'll cause you to do things. It'll cause you to change up things that you've put in place. That's going to be your guideline, for moving the company forward, for moving the team forward, and it causes you to question yourself or question other people a little too much. And we go through that sometimes. Where, for me, I don't get into all that stuff. I let certain people handle certain things, but when it comes to the overall aspect in terms of how we're going to run the company, there's only one way to do it. And that's do it the right way.
Yeah,
it's a people-based business.
Yeah,
and if you don't treat people the right way, you don't have a great product where they have the best experience each time, you won't last long in this game.
And if you dig deep, what Coach is saying is understand the business market you're in. Because if you want to be all about analytics, just sell a computer, sell a product, sell just a hard inanimate product and just go with that. Sell T-shirts, do those things. Because that's and even now with certain clothing lines, you can't sell clothes unless you have some type of connection with people as a lifestyle brand. But if you go sell a cutlery set, go do those things. But you're going to be here where you're basing your success off of people spending their hard-earned money to give to you in a service that they don't have to have.
Extracurriculars.
Yeah, they don't have to have that. They got to be more than a transaction. Right? You got to be able to understand that. And it's not your consumer's, client's job to make you money. When you get into this space, if you can only come in thinking of one way or one stream of income, that's your fault. Don't overcharge your customer because you can't think of how this happened. Now, you just done the culture a disservice, right? Like, yes, we're going to give a discount here, here, and here because it's more important to us that you are here with us, right? It's our job to figure out other ways to bring in some revenue to keep this going so you can keep going, right? But that's the difference between somebody that really understands the vision and whole, right? And so that leads me to my next thing, which I think is really, really, really important, and it's the perfect way for us to close out. Communities and how small businesses create, maintain, and kind of, they're like the glue, right? They're like that great role, they're Robert Ory of the team, and how small businesses help maintain communities and build some type of culture within communities, right? Like can you think back to, the neighborhoods that you grew up in, or even where you went to college in, to where there's some small corner stores, restaurants, shops that if everybody that lived in Baltimore during 95 and 2005, all of you, even if you met up in Chicago or wherever else, you'd be like, yo, you remember this spot? And they'd be like, yo, that's where blah, blah, blah was.
As soon as you said college, I thought about a place in Philly called Little Pete's.
Yeah.
It was a little diner, and everybody would go there after hours.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody, all people from all types of, walks of life and things like that. And that was you didn't have to, some people were well-dressed. Mm. Some people had on shorts, sweats, and it was just a place where people would get together, talk, eat, and, and just have a good time, and talk about what they did earlier that night. Right. And, that's in a big city, a little raggedy diner. And it just gave people a sense of where they can just let their hair down and be themselves, and that's what a small business does. It's supposed to do in a community where, you can go in to see certain people all the time and feel safe, feel open to talk about certain things and just know that you're going to be able to go and get services and products that aren't going to be tampered with in terms of the commercial conglomerate of the world, it's not going to have this, putting a Target in the middle of a neighborhood is not going to have the same effect as, a mom and pop store. Mm-hmm. And you just can't build the same type of community around it. It's like, how many times have you seen people living in a building and there's a neighbor across the hall, mm-hmm. to your right, to your left, and you don't know anybody's name.
Right.
That's just...
It's different.
It's different, And people say, well, that's, somebody living in the country or a small suburb or something. No, there were people in the cities back in the day that knew their neighbors. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Oh, that's Joe from, room, apartment 36A. But, people just don't do that now because there isn't a real sense of community. And that's what we've been hearing here in terms of one of the issues some families have. And think about the short time we've been here in operation. We've started to grow that.
Yeah.
And how do we know that? When families call me and say, can I get this family's number? Because we want to have a play date, or we want to invite all the girls over from our kids' class for extra practice. Mm-hmm. That's music to our ears, man.
Yeah, that's the whole purpose. Or even when we get invited, or when we get the occasional gift, and it's like, man, I didn't even know that, you like being here that much, right? Like, I didn't even know. You barely talk to us, but it's those little things, right? And in a place that's so transient like Dubai, where people come and go, expats come in for this and that, and this is a place where it's important, like, for the growth of the world going forward, because it's so peaceful. It's going to be a tech hub, and people are going to want to live here. Right. And the biggest thing that we talk about is the basketball culture. The basketball culture helped us deal with all of those lessons we learned in business. Basketball culture helped us deal with all of those lessons we learned about dealing with people and different types of people, about learning and growing and stepping out of our comfort zone and helping somebody else, and understanding how to be selfless and at times be selfish when you need to be. And so when we say our goal here is to build that authentic culture, is because we haven't seen it and it hasn't been here. So small businesses are the keystone to that. And what we're doing here now, we know is in the right path of that. And we just had to, let go and talk about how a lot of that frustration that goes within building is not going to go anywhere. And you really got to be built different. And you don't have to, embark on those entrepreneurial things if you don't want to. But on a brighter note, let's... I
thought we had a different intro, man.
Intro?
I thought you said you had a new intro.
Oh, no. You spilling the beans, big dog.
Yeah, I'm saying.
You talking crazy right now.
Listen,
I don't know what you're talking about, man.
Come on, man.
I stopped telling you stuff. Your memory ain't that good. Mm-hmm. But you know how we ended. Thank you guys again, as always, for tuning in. You know, you small group of folks that's showing us love, is keeping us going. You know, we gonna figure it out how to get up and above. We might need Wallow and Gilly to throw us a shout out, or Gilbert Arenas or somebody to throw us on the thing. But Chris Brickley did comment on one of our things though.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah. So it'd be little wins. It'd be little things I see, people that I don't know, never seen, that comment and say y'all doing a good job to keep me going. But you know what it is. Post game wrap up. You know, let's knock it out the park. How you want to end it today, big dog?
You know, based on what we just experienced with our Hoop Star final shootout of the term, I want to just say one word, and I'll describe in terms of what I'm talking about. Relax. This is for parents not only here, worldwide. Relax. Your kid is playing a sport that they may like or they may love. Okay? It is not the NBA Finals. It's not the college football playoffs. It's not the Super Bowl. They are playing a game to have fun at this age, okay, to stay in shape, okay, and just become more knowledgeable of the game. Whoever's coaching your kid, you have to make a decision. If you don't like them, you don't like the way they're coaching, your decision is yours. Move your kid. But if your kid is going to stay there, allow someone else to take the reins for that 1 hour or 2 hours or whatever it may be and lead your child. Mm-hmm. If you're there and you can observe a positive setting, let them go. Let them go. Don't confuse the kid. Their loyalties lie with their blood, their flesh and blood.
Every time.
But during that game, it's not just about them. It's about their team as a whole. So if you got something to say and it goes in opposition to what the coach is saying, you're confusing that kid. You're frustrating that coach. You're frustrating those players. And just think about this. No matter what you may do in life in terms of your career, I guarantee you that coach would not walk into your office and tell you how to do your job better than you know how to do your job. Mm-hmm. So how dare you tell that coach how to do his or her job?
Man.
Relax.
Listen, I don't even. That's real, man. That's some humility right there. Yeah. You gotta really understand that. I'm gonna wrap it up with something real simple too. Take your time and get it right. And I think that's self-explanatory. Everybody has their own timeline. Everybody has their own space into when it's going to work for them. And you take your time and get it right, and you'll know when it's time. And when it's time, be fearless. All right? So take your time, get it right, be fearless. And whatever happens, you can live with the result when you know it was on your own terms. So, as we wrap it up, Bridgin The Gap, episode 7. That's a wrap. You know where to find us on all the socials. It'll be somewhere down here on the bottom. Hoop Mountain Dubai, Hoop Mountain DXB on Instagram, hoopmountain.ae online. Tap in, check in with us. We only have one more episode before the new year. We're going to be planning some new things coming on in 2022. But as always, keep it real, keep it simple, keep going.